We penned this down sometime in 2017, about a year into our launch. We said we want to build something for every Indian. We don't want every Indian who's interested in doing digital payments. We wanted to build something that every Indian will use. The every part of it was very important. My co-founders and I had already worked at Flipkart for 3 or 4 years, so we'd seen the e-commerce sort of rocket ship. But e-commerce was reaching maybe 10, 15 crore Indians. We felt that payments, if digitized, could start a virtuous cycle of formalization of the economy in a way where we could dedicate 10, 20, 30 years of our lives in a very, very substantial and exciting way. And I'll share some data with the audience, and hopefully you'll sort of agree. The session just before this, somebody talked about how India's progress started with UPI. We'll share some numbers there. What a transformation that's been. But the idea here is we want to make sure that no one's left behind. Everyone's progress should start getting liberalized. Everyone should have equal access to money and then to services, all sorts of financial services, goods, other digital services. And the best way to start is by making sure everyone has digital payments. So where are we today? You could go to the next one. Allow me to share with you, in partnership with MapMyIndia, another Indian startup, a heat map of real transactions by Indian consumers over the last 8 years. 99% of these are on UPI, by the way. If you just see the length and breadth of the country today is using digital payments. This has happened in 8 years. In sheer reach, we are now at over 50 crore users, and this is PhonePe alone. I'm sure that digital payments reaches even more. There's other players in the market. But just look at that journey. Let's go to the next one. In terms of merchants, and please note on the top left, you'll see when COVID happens, people start small businesses in the hinterland, you'll see the entire map light up. There is not a nook and corner in the country that does not accept digital payments now. This is happening in real time. And the first and second and third order impact of those digitization revolutions that are happening are visible. I'll show you just one more. So people know that PhonePe processes payments. This is a heat map of how insurance premiums are being paid on PhonePe. Just notice it's on a lag. You saw with the consumers, everything's red and really, really big numbers. Insurance is starting to grow that way. Digital lending is growing. So the penetration that we've made with payments and the data that's come out of it is allowing banks and insurers and AMCs to build products for the masses in a way that was unimaginable, honestly, 10 years ago, right? And that's the animal instincts of entrepreneurship and industry that we as a company want to sort of unleash. If you go to the next one, I think this is the humbling part. As much as we believe we've done good work in the last 8 to 10 years, our vision is to actually democratize progress for 1 billion Indians. Technology should allow us to reach there. Telecom has gotten there. Everyone's got data. Everyone's got YouTube. But as of today, we remind ourselves we've just got to about 40% of Indians. Now, this data, for economists in the audience, this is our extrapolation of the tiering in India. It's 80-90% accurate. Our own data is accurate. As you can see, the penetration of digital payments in India started with the metros, started with the big cities. Most people sitting in this audience would all be using a PhonePe or perhaps a GPay or a Paytm or some other app. That penetration by COVID end had got to every city in tier 2. But the remarkable thing that actually happened during the pandemic is that revolution actually also reached our villages. Tier 6 cities are cities with 5,000 or less people. Tier 2 and below is about 70% of India. We're making progress, but we have miles to go. And I think that's our first North Star. We want to make sure that at least in payments, if not in other categories, we are able to light up India coast to coast, pillar to post, right? So 40% is where we are at. We have lots to cover. So let's talk about how we think or how we're going about trying to build a great company. Building great products in the startup world, we all use them, we like them, but one of the unfortunate things in the last couple of decades is durable multi-generational companies have stopped getting created. All of us can think about that really good app that we used 20 years ago that exists no more, whether it's a Yahoo that gets replaced with a Google, whether it's a MySpace that gets replaced with a Facebook. The longevity of companies has gone down. One of the things that we're trying to do, we started, before we figured out what PhonePe would do, given that we were starting the company a little later, we were almost 40, Rahul, myself. Our third co-founder is actually based in the US, but he was building because his father, who's no longer with him, told him to build for India. So he was one of those NRIs that was being talked about earlier today. He wanted to build. We had learnings. And we said, let's build a company which has a foundation very deeply rooted in culture and values, learn from the Tatas and the Infosys and the sort of stalwarts of the industry. So what we actually have is a pretty elaborate set of culture and values that kids hate. We literally indoctrinate them. These are written on every building in our office. You get them with your orientation kit. We make you rehearse them as much as you can. But they're sacred to us because they remind us whether you're doing well or you're not, whether the markets are good or they're not. These remind us the mission that we are on. These remind us the kind of company we want to create. And I didn't put heat to it when I was building my first startup. We made money, we got users, but the company did not have a binding value system that made us navigate issues, market changes, pandemics and whatnot. I think as you sort of make your early mistakes and become a serial entrepreneur, one of the things that you really learn to treasure is institution building. And so one of my favorite ones in this is at the bottom left. We call it positive disruption. It's very, very personal to PhonePe. We talk about the fact that we will not disrupt somebody's profit pool just because we can. We will increase the size of the pie of any market we enter. Otherwise, we will not enter. Now, why is that important? Everyone's talking about the economy in terms of macros. 2 trillion, 3 trillion, 10 trillion, 20 trillion, 50 trillion. These things don't happen in macros. You can track them in macros, but they happen at the grassroots in terms of compounding in daily lives. So you got to create enablers. And if you take capital in the startup world, we see this all day long. One of the realities is that if there's a really exciting market opportunity, 50 venture capitalists and 100 good entrepreneurs will chase it, and margins go to zero, and you're cutting each other instead of creating. One of the things we love about India Stack and DPI is things like UPI open up markets, things like Account Aggregator open up markets. So we work very closely with them. The other thing that I think from personal sort of experiences, I love sports. I grew up playing a lot of sports, and I got most of my learnings in life through sports. Whether you play cricket, football, individual sports, teamwork and loyalty and a good mix of talent is super important. One of the things that you will see here and on the next slide is we are a 9-year-old company. The founders have known each other for 27 years. Boris and I have known each other for 20 years. The average tenure of the people working together in this company at the leadership is actually longer than the company itself has existed. Many of us are doing a second or third tango together. Now, why is this important in the PhonePe journey? One of the benefits you have of working with people that you've known for a long time is that you can fight and argue all day long about ideas and no one gets hurt or upset. It's like family. You just hold a mirror and say, this is the right way to do it. No one's building careers, everyone's mission-oriented. If they were building careers, they'd be worrying about how the other person thought about what you said, how does this look to my boss? We've all been there. And we said, you know what, let's not do that. So culturally, I think this is a very big element of PhonePe. And this flows down. We do a lot of things unconventionally, some that drive even some of our former investors and board members crazy. We don't do written calibration at the leadership. We don't do quarterly and annual evaluation and grading. I find that counterproductive. We give each other feedback every day. But we don't do it in writing and grade you and slot you into a bucket or do curve fitting. I think it destroys mission orientation. So at PhonePe, we bring in people that we believe are interested in solving for 1 billion Indians. That's it. As long as you're interested and you're talented, everything else falls in line. Go to the next one. Two things that most people don't talk about often enough. We keep hearing headlines all over the media about this company raised this much money, this company raised this much money, or the valuation. We focused, again, benefit of hindsight, we focused our energies on what kind of investors we want. Because investors, in fact, long-term stable investors really, really help. And what you'll see at PhonePe is a mix of some sovereign investors, institutional investors who will stay for 20, 30 years and let you build, really let you build, and some strategic investors. We have Walmart and Tencent and Microsoft. These are companies themselves that have done things at massive scale. They are generational companies. So we get tremendous learning from them. And we are starting to actually get more domestic capital into the company as well, and we'll talk about that. But I think it's very important to get the right investors, not the right valuation. Valuations build. Don't time the markets, time the business. Again, startups don't talk about their boards. Our board is very carefully crafted. We have some incredibly good technology giants in there, like Binny Bansal, the founder of Flipkart, is there. We have the CFO of PayPal. He took the company public, one of the biggest fintech successes. To head our risk committee, we have the former revenue secretary of the country. Each of these people serve as both advisors and mentors to both myself and our management team. And finally, and I said this at the beginning, we do a lot of things differently. One of them is we focus on different things. We are that weird startup that actually likes regulation. Because we chose to be in payments and we said we want to go and build payments for 1 billion people, we have been regulated from day zero. And today we are regulated across 4 different regulators. And we take pride in it. Our compliance team is almost probably the second largest team in the company. It's bigger than finance, it's bigger than marketing, it's bigger than legal, it's bigger than a lot of functions, it's bigger than product. And that gives you durability over time. These are things that I wish they were teaching us in business school or startup TED Talks when I was starting out my first time. Spent 15 precious years unlearning what I had learned in the first few years. But these are the things that are helping us build PhonePe, not helping us build the product. Now I'll come to how we are building PhonePe itself. So if you can go to the next slide, skip this one. The first thing that you need to do before you can build great products is to actually build a really, really strong foundation layer, obviously. So if you can go to the next slide, please. We build all our infrastructure for PhonePe in-house. All of our infrastructure is localized to India. And I'm proud to report that we build our servers in liquid cooling technology, the first of its kind in India. There's a novel initiative with Dell. So this is clean tech data centers getting built out in India. Highly, highly sustainable, highly, highly scalable. Lots of fun to build. We build all our tech in-house. We don't use public clouds for payments. This is citizens' data. We want to make sure it's very secure. And we use data ethically, but we use it pervasively. We use it abundantly to solve a lot of different kinds of problems. Many people, I've seen this personally, tell us, PhonePe nahi chalta, tab baki apps chalte hain. And that's because we actually have one of the most sophisticated kill switches. One of the things that we did to build trust is that if we think that your payment will not go through and your money will get stuck, we don't let you make the payment, we block it. That's called a kill switch. We built that technology in 2016, months after UPI launch, because we found failure rates were high. So initially people would try other apps. We knew our own practices were making people try competitor apps. And my co-founder, who's the CTO, said, Samir, if it's payments, it has to work 100% of the time. People will come back. And guess what? Today, we have 99.8% repeat rate organically. We don't incentivize, we don't give cash back. 99.8% of our customers come back over and over and over again. Our average customers do more than 50 transactions a month on the app. But you have to give some to get some. You have to give up short-term wins to get the long-term trust. If you go to the next one. The other thing that we've been on a launch binge since 2022, launching a lot of new apps, launching some new companies. People ask us how we move so fast. But the other early choice that PhonePe made was that all our services, all our platforms are designed to be multi-tenant. What that means is if you built it, you could practically sell it commercially as a service. Whether it's logging in with PhonePe, whether it is your digital CRM solutions, whether it's your risk and fraud platforms, if I build it for payments, I can use it for lending, I can use it for PIN code, I can use it across the board. These are deep investments in technology and IP and R&D. We do them quietly, we don't talk about it, we obsess over it, but they give us acceleration. And if you go to the next slide, what you'll see is 80% of the starting stack for launching all these apps was common. What we were using for PhonePe was also used for PIN code, which is a ONDC-based shopping app. We also used that to build India's first app store called Indus. We're also using it to build Share Market, which is a wealth broking app. There's a lot of commonality at the tech stack, and that allows you to move fast and more efficiently. And that's one of the hallmarks of building tech at PhonePe. We are building, like the Googles and the Facebooks and the Microsofts of the world, we are building sort of very, very high-class tech platforms, very scalable platforms. You can just go to the next, please. So one of the things that we've obviously been focused on is expanding the market. But core to that actually, or our own vision, was making sure that we helped UPI grow really rapidly. We are UPI fanboys and fangirls, unabashedly so. It's the best thing since sliced bread and tech, an interoperable payment network that came out of India. And we're proud to say that for the last several years, we've been the market leader in payments. It doesn't come without its own problems, but I think if you go to the next slide, I want to talk about how we got there. How are we building a great business? We talked about building a great company. Great companies are built on the back of great culture, great boards, great values, governance. Great companies are built by focusing on building very scalable technology stacks so that if your customers really start using PhonePe in every nook and corner in the country, or during Diwali when everyone's sending each other small transaction values. This Diwali, we did more than 35 crore transactions in one day. Every day, we do over 30 crore transactions. That's 300 million transactions. If you see those graphs, just go back, please. Our monthly transactions have grown over 70 times. 70 times since 2018, right? Without glitches, without failures. India's payments, and within that PhonePe and some of the other companies combined, our digital payments scale is unparalleled in the world. We are now the largest processor of digital payments, retail digital payments in the world, which is saying something. How do we get there? If you're dealing with money, unlike dealing with, say, fast food, payments is essential. It's the lifeline of your everyday activity, but it also causes stress. If I send somebody money and it doesn't reach them, it causes two-party stress. If I'm paying at a shop and the money doesn't reach the shopkeeper, it causes friction. So one of the things you really need to do is slowly and steadily, very slowly and steadily build that trust. One of the things I want to do is explain this graph, because this is core to the PhonePe way of thinking and building. With your permission, I'm going to take a minute. So what you see with these colored lines is basically the vintage of the user who's tried the PhonePe app the first time. The longest line is the oldest customer. A customer who came, thank you. Hello. Hello. Yeah. This line right here is customers who downloaded the PhonePe app and started using it way back in 2018. If you see the rate at which they grew, their monthly transactions, it's a slow climb. We didn't have that many QR codes in India. We didn't have that many use cases on the PhonePe app. They were taking their time. All the banks were not digitized, so their customers couldn't use UPI on day zero. If you now see the blue line on the left, that's a customer who's actually started using PhonePe for the first time just this January. Look at how fast their adoption curve is. Because now the app is operating very robustly. Everywhere you go, if you start using digital payments today, everywhere you go, from the airport to the chai ki tapri, from your retail malls to your government offices, people will accept digital payments. And that means you can basically leave your wallet behind the day you start using PhonePe. That is 50 transactions a month as a behavior for new customers adopting digital payments. That's the opportunity. We've laid out the railroads. Every single small shop in India is digitized. I can say this with pride. During COVID, when the country was lit green, yellow, and orange, rural India was green, the hills were green. We had over 1 lakh freelancers going pillar to post across the country and putting up QR codes in rural India. Today, PhonePe has put up over 1.2 crore QR codes in rural India alone. So you could travel on a road trip and you will be able to pay wherever you go. That's the level of impact we believe that can be made if you're willing to put people on the ground. So this teaches you that there's trust building on the platform, and now we can start actually distributing financial services and helping the development of the financial service markets. And finally, because this is typically the joke in Bangalore, you can either build a good operation or you can build a good business. We're proud to report that while our operations are growing, our business is also growing pretty well. Last year was important for us, FY24 for the first time. PhonePe has also become non-cash profitable. We've also crossed 5,000 crores in revenues. So we're a pretty large top line and sustainable growth story as well. So you can do these things. You can actually be well regulated and compliant, but still grow at 70% CAGR. You can actually be profitable while adding 5-6 crore customers every year, and that's about how many Indians we're digitizing every year, right? People believe that if you're spending a lot on marketing, then you can't actually become profitable. We're proving otherwise. People believe that if all your customers are coming from Bharat and not from urban India, you can't make money. We're proving otherwise. People believe that if you're not a foreign US branded company, don't have English all over, you can't grow. Here we are sitting with a Devanagari logo in India, building out of India, for India, and still adding 40, 50, 60 million customers a year and digitizing the country. So that's our story, that's the mission we are on, that's the vision we have. Thank you very much.